Yes, and this is what spiked my interest, that there are so many things there about how experts are formed and where I find myself. But also, I know that not many developers go through or are lucky enough to go through those stages, to having a mentor, to learning from somebody else, to feeling being inside the community of practice and so on. But I think it would be useful for our audience, first of all, to introduce just a little bit the model, and then to go through a few things that are particular to software development that might be interesting.
So perhaps should I just outline the model that I've used in the book?
Yes.
So I've framed it around the well-known model, really based on the medieval guild system in Europe, there for centuries now, of three stages where you start off as an apprentice, then you become a journeyman, and finally you become a master. And although these days we don't use those terms in any gendered sense, of journeyman applies equally to men and women, the same to master. I think that this is quite a useful model because it is in the sort of it's in the public mind, as it were. A lot of people are familiar with this model, which goes something like this: as an apprentice, you start off knowing nothing about an area of work you've committed to join. And so when you start, you are working as an apprentice in somebody else's domain, the domain of a master who's been through these stages and runs a workshop where you join a group of people who are doing the work that you want to learn to do. But to begin with, you have no idea what it's all about. In the old days, you didn't get paid. You just spent years, 7, 8, often longer years, being fed and sheltered, but not much more than that. And in that process, you did what other people told you, and you gradually built up skills. That allowed you to go into the next stage of being a journeyman, where you journeyed across your country. You took those skills that you'd spent a long time working. You might be a leather worker or a shoemaker or a stone carver or a furniture maker, whatever it was. By the time you left and went out journeying across your country as a journeyman, you were beginning to you were taking responsibility then for the work that you did. You were plying your craft. You were earning a living from it. You were making your livelihood from it. You were doing work for other people, and you took responsibility for the quality of that work. But you were essentially working as a solo craftsman. And then the third stage was when you yourself had developed enough skill and knowledge and indeed wisdom to be able to set up your own workshop and to have apprentices of your own. And so the serpent bit its own tail, and you came round again to where you started from, but this time you had apprentices who were following the path that you yourself had trodden and were developing those skills themselves. And I think that's an interesting and familiar descriptive model. But as I said earlier, it doesn't really work as an explanatory model because it doesn't tell the inside story of what goes on when somebody goes through that path. It also makes that path seem much simpler and clearer than it actually is. And it doesn't tell you very much about some crucial aspects of that pathway, such as how long it takes. And although you can't be precise, I think, in how long it takes, you can certainly say that it is a process that goes on for many, many years, and that unless you have been in that world for long enough to have experienced and gone through those processes, it's very unlikely that you will have become truly expert.